Hey there guys, PC Guy here with news in tech and game for the week, and as you can probably guess and expect if you follow the news in the tech industry, big news this week is the launch of Intel's Comet Lake generation, or 10th generation of processors as they call it. And well, we don't have actual reviews or anything, the processors are not out there yet, they have just been basically revealed and announced, and they should be available sometime throughout the next month, so in May. We do, however, have a list of processors that I have gone through, and I actually have a video dedicated only to this launch where I give my thoughts on the matter, and you should be able to find the link up there in the cards. So I'm not going to go super in-depth in this video, but I will show you the list of processors and what exactly was released. So starting from the top, you have the i9-10900K. These are very handy numbers, mind you, not. In any case, you have the usual 10900, 10700, and it trickles down to the 600, 500, 300, etc. I'll go to those in a bit. And you have two designations, let's say the K, which is for the unlocked, as most of you might know, and the F, which stands for processors with no integrated graphics. So you'll not get the image on your screen unless you have a dedicated graphics card installed. So keep that in mind if you're planning to switch to these. So you have K, KF, so unlocked, no graphics, etc. And then you have the locked with graphics, locked without graphics, and yeah, it's a lot of product segmentation, and it helps with the binning of the products and using core chips that would otherwise be waste because some cores might be damaged. In any case, as far for what most people care about, the 10900K will have 10 cores, 20 threads, so an increase of 2 cores from last generation. And the prices remain similar to the previous generation, down to a difference of literally a couple of dollars. So the prices have not dropped despite the increase in competition from AMD. The big difference, however, is thermal velocity boosts on the 900 family, which is a special kind of boost that will only happen if your CPU is under the 70 degrees. So considering how hot these chips will probably run, don't expect to see this happening very often. For the rest of the chips under the 10900, so 700 and down, the main difference is the inclusion of hyperthreading, so you're getting 16 threads out of your 8 cores, which is a feature that was unavailable for anyone under the 9900K previous generation. Same story going down to all the way down to the 1000K, which is an i3, so they all have hyperthreading, and they all have gotten a small frequency boost compared to last generation. They all still use the same integrated graphics as last generation, so no changes there. All in all, there's not a whole lot to be excited about this generation. It is an improvement, I'm not saying otherwise. The addition of hyperthreading to most lower-end parts, they all got a moderate frequency bump, but there is no change in architecture, there is no improvements in that area, there is no increased IPC or anything of the sort. The TDP is still very misrepresented, and I'm actually curious how much exactly the 10900K will pull from the wall at full load, which is not going to be the reported TDP, not by a long shot, and that might actually also create a few cooling issues, but in any case I give my thoughts on the matter on the other video, so feel free to check it out. They also do not support PCIe Gen 4 or any other exciting features really, other than Wi-Fi 6, but yeah, that's not really groundbreaking to be quite honest, and kind of hard to justify a new socket because they will need a new socket, LGA 1200, which means more expensive motherboards as well. And while we're talking about new generation stuff, Nvidia has announced that their keynote for GTC 2020, which was supposed to happen on an actual event but was cancelled because of the worldwide health issues as you can expect, will happen on May 14th, so roughly a week and a half from now. And they opened their statement with call for people to get amped for our latest platform breakthroughs. And that is, well, obviously clearly a reference to their Ampere generation, which is a new generation on graphics card. However, they do go on to kind of list the things that they are going to be addressing, which is AI, deep learning, autonomous vehicles, robotics, and professional graphics. And it seems like they list everything except gaming. This should come at no surprise for anyone who follows that kind of stuff, because usually server and data center graphics cards get launched a lot sooner than their consumer counterparts. So don't expect to see an RTX 3080 or 3080 Ti or anything announced at this GTC. So don't get your hopes up for that, because you're only going to get disappointed. I might be wrong, they might announce something, but don't get your hopes up for that in any case. Probably going to see a successor for the data center and server stuff based on the Ampere architecture. So we might be able to, if we actually get some numbers, we might be able to kind of extrapolate those numbers to how much of a generational improvement it is, and kind of take that data, compare it with the RTX lineup, and kind of guess how much it's going to land, although that is still a guess and no actual hard facts. That said, you are probably going to see a whole lot of rumors floating around. Like I saw a rumor about the 3080 Ti having 8,000 CUDA cores, etc., etc. I cannot say if it will be right or not. However, it does seem like it will be kind of too good to be true. And it would be a massively priced card as well, if that was true. So take the rumors that you see around this time, take it with a grain of salt, because they are probably generating hype for GTC, and you are probably going to fall flat on your face if nothing is announced. Speaking of things that are not a rumor and are actually confirmed, even a little bit strange, World of Warcraft is going to be adding DXR and Raytracing support for Shadowlands. It's already been included in the latest alpha build that is currently running. It's still closed, so we could not really try it out. However, strings for ray-traced shadows and variable height shading have been added to World of Warcraft for the next expansion, which is kind of strange, to be honest. For one, WoW has also always been a very accessible game in terms of system requirements, so something like RTX seems a little bit out of place, even if it's optional. You don't have to have it on, obviously. The other thing is that ray tracing is usually used for a realistic look, realistic shadows, realistic lighting, that sort of thing, to make games feel and look a little bit more real. And Warcraft has definitely not really gone for that angle in their graphic design. It's all a bit more cartoonish, etc. So, and I don't say this as a negative thing. It's just a fact. It doesn't go for photorealism. So it's a bit strange how exactly they are going to implement ray tracing there and still stick to that style that they have, that very clear style that Warcraft has. But I mean, it's always better to have an option than to not have an option there at all. So it's a good thing, I suppose, and we'll see how that actually looks like in game. And since we're talking about GPUs, apparently an AMD GPU, in this case a Radeon Pro WX3100, has been modified by researchers, and keep in mind this is all done in a research setting. It didn't actually happen in a real-world exploit, but they have been able to modify the graphics card, not hardware, but modify the driver and take control of it, to actually function as a radio transmitter to be able to steal data from the PC via the radio emissions. This was done by basically modifying the clocks on the cores to actually rapidly change their frequency. This would emit a radio frequency that they would be able to pick up with another device over 50 feet away behind the wall. So it actually had some range on it. The thing is, this is a highly theoretical thing. You would need to actually have pre-installed malware on the system to take control of the graphics card at such a deep level, and then you would have to be still, reasonably close, and even then it is a very, very slow rate of transmission. You'd be able to get single words out of it and not whole files or anything like that. The other side of the coin is that it is not detectable by antivirus or any other stuff, because it's not an actual virus, it's just a graphics card changing their clock frequencies, so hard to pick up on that, I suppose. But yeah, this is definitely not something that you should be worried about in real life, and it's not a thing from AMD only. You could easily do this, as the article points out, with Nvidia GPUs or even CPUs, but it's a very complex attack that is not even that effective to begin with, but I thought it was a funny thing to point out. On slightly better news for GPUs and such, in this case Intel's integrated GPUs, they actually took a good step in the right direction, which is releasing the first unlocked GPU driver for OEM systems. So let's say the systems with laptops, etc., that have integrated Intel graphics, they have released drivers that are no longer locked, and this is because for the longest of times OEMs, so the brands, they insist on having the drivers first certified for their individual product before actually releasing them so that people can update them. What this means is that it kind of creates a bottleneck in the whole process of driver validation, and for most people that own older products, for example, after a while there would be no drivers available for them, because the drivers that do exist from Intel were not validated for their OEM, even though they work perfectly and they would fix possible issues that those people might have. With unlocked GPU drivers, those people will be able to keep upgrading their drivers, so they might overcome whatever issues they face. So pretty good move by Intel, and hopefully that helps some people with a bit older products. Intel's not the only one with some smart tricks up their sleeve, for especially for older machines, and the Windows 10 May update should give some older machines some new life, at least sometimes. It is going to introduce a new trick for their file indexing system, and that should make the indexing system kind of only run when the PC is not really being used to its full potential. This should happen only when you are not really running demanding applications, and it means that you are not going to have your PC slow down during use. So that's definitely kind of a new breath of fresh air for people with older systems that only have hard drives. In systems with solid state storage, this will probably not really have an impact, because those, well, they're fast enough that you don't really notice when it happens or not. That said, keep in mind that Windows updates are a fickle beast at the best, so you could potentially see a lot of issues as with any other updates, and I usually tend to recommend people to postpone their updates for at least a week or two before installing them, unless they are critical updates or something. But try to postpone your updates to avoid any day one issues, which Windows updates frequently have. Remember when I said the new Intel CPUs were going to be launching with support for Wi-Fi 6? Well, its big brother Wi-Fi 6E is already approved and is going to start being used soon enough. This is mostly news for people in the US, because it's only going to be there at first, although it will most likely spread worldwide. And apparently the FCC has voted to expand Wi-Fi into the 6 GHz band, so they are going to be added a few more frequency channels on the higher end of the spectrum, which will help to, well, with the issues that there are currently of so many devices across the frequency range that everyone's really bottlenecking each other. Downside of Wi-Fi 6E is kind of like this difference between the 2.4 GHz spectrum and the 5 GHz band. They are fundamentally different in that the lower you go in the gigahertz value, the more range you will have. So the 6 gigahertz being even higher than the 5, you get more bandwidth because, well, the frequency is higher, but the range will be shorter even than the 5 gigahertz. So it's something that seems to be a very good use for homes where there's not a whole lot of congestion and there's not a lot of obstacles in the way of the signal, but I would expect this to have a range that for bigger homes or homes with very thick walls or the such, that this could not be the most amazing solution, but we'll see how that all works out. This next article is kind of a mix of a speculation article and an actual real thing, and apparently Samsung is going to be starting mass production of their 5nm lines on Q2 2020, so not 2021 like it was thought to be earlier a couple months ago. They have actually announced it themselves, so this is the part of the information that is actually credible and confirmed, and that it's going to be using an EUV process, so a bit better than the default 5nm. Now the speculation now is a bit that the article kind of implies that they could be producing 5nm based Ampere chips for Nvidia, Now, they do not specify what kind of Ampere chips it would be, but we kind of heard for a while now that Ampere would be on 7 nanometer, so this could be kind of an improvement on Ampere for a future generation, or maybe the 7 nanometer rumors for Ampere were wrong all along. And not wanting to be left behind there, TSMC has announced that they have started developing their 2 nanometer process, and I actually saw a roadmap map with details of processes beyond that in the next 10 or 20 years, what the plan was, although obviously that's subject to change. But so far, what we know now is that they have started developing the 2 nanometer process, which, well, it's definitely going to take a few years to be in the mainstream, obviously, but, well, they don't want to be left behind. And this is where we head into leak territory, even though if in this case it might actually be a somewhat trusted leak. It originates from Gamers Nexus, which is actually one of the more reputable websites out there that don't actually usually dabble in leaks. So when they say that it's from an internal trusted source, I kind of do believe them, really. And it comes from the roadmap for AMD's plans for DDR5 memory support and USB 4.0, and apparently the plan is to start with that on 2022. If you think about it, it does make quite a lot of sense. Zen 3 is going to be launching later this year, probably towards the end of the year, so I would not expect a major launch from AMD as far as desktop CPUs goes in the 2021 toward, maybe it'll start some leftovers from Zen 3, let's say, but I would not expect Zen 4 to launch in 2021 at all, and somewhere towards the middle of 2022 would be more of a reasonable expectation. So that kind of lines up with this, and it would make sense to have GDDR5 by then, because that's also kind of when the target has been set for a while now for DDR5 to be used in mainstream. So not very surprising, and it all does make sense. But as always, a leak is a leak, and until there's actually trusted information, don't put too much stock in it. Then again, it's not like you can affect anything, but you can kind of plan your upgrade plan for 2022 to be the year where you would potentially renew your PC or something to take advantage of the inclusion of DDR5. It's supposed to be a lot faster than the DDR4 that we nowadays have. And in Ryzen's cases, for example, that they benefit immensely from fast memory, I kind of wonder how much of an impact it will have on that jump from Zen 3 to Zen 4 to be able to use the DDR5. So these have been the most important tech news of the week. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video, and I hope I managed to keep you guys updated on the stuff. Like I said, if you want to get a bit more of an in-depth commentary on the Intel's generation of Comet Lake, then check the video that I linked at the start. The card should be somewhere on the top. And yeah, let me know what you guys think, what you're excited for. Drop a like and a comment on the video down below to help us get some visibility. And it would be amazingly appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel if you are not already. That is the way that we really can grow more in the future and give you guys more and better videos, as well as more hands-on content with actual hardware and better quality. So I hope I'll see you guys in the future. And in the meantime, have fun.